My name is Peter Ott, for those of you that don't recognize me or know me. I am the chairman of the Economic Development Committee here in town. We have meetings the first and third Wednesday of every month. They're open. You can come. We'd love to see you. And we are on Ashland TV, on YouTube, so by all means, participate. We'd love to hear. The committee members here today with us: Bonnie, John, Jana, Jenny, Charlie, Bino, and our guest star is Ellen Levinson, and she'll be doing the heavy lifting today. As a side note here, Ellen is not on the committee. She has volunteered a great deal of her time and effort on this effort. She receives no money for this.
So. Neither do we.
And neither does anyone else in this town who contributes.
Anyway, so today we're here to talk about the Ashland waterfront redevelopment project. This is something that has been in the works. We've been looking at this for months, almost a year maybe, the better part of the year. We'll go over the timeline here at some point. My role here today is to be an MC. I'll let the others do the heavy lifting. We'll start. John will introduce the project. Ellen will walk through the grant itself. Go ahead, Bonnie. Go ahead. John will introduce the project. Ellen will talk about the grant and the process that we had to go through to secure the funds. And we'll talk about the matching piece of that. And I know that's a big concern to a lot of you. And then at the end, Bino will come up and talk about the next steps. Bino is critical to the committee in that he's our link to the state, okay? And knows where the bodies are buried at the state. I'm going to ask that you not interrupt the presentation with questions. At the very end, we will have a Q&A. And we've been assured that dinner will come in if we're still here at the end of the day. Okay, so we are not in a rush to get out of here. We'll take all of your questions. I do ask that we be respectful and one person at a time at the end. Okay? No questions during the presentation. We'll take them all at the end. Okay? And with that, the fabulous Jana.
Okay. Oh my.
Okay, what is the Ashland waterfront? The Ashland Waterfront Redevelopment Project, or more commonly known here as the Town Beach, sits on the edge of Little Squam Lake at the entrance of the Squam River. Ashland is also said to be the gateway to the Squam Lakes region. It measures about 520 feet long by 120 feet wide and includes the parking area across Levitt Hill Road. The goal of Ashland Waterfront is to increase its usability and to enhance the town's appeal. The purpose being to attract new business, thus bringing quality jobs and new residents. This will boost the local economy, the tax base, and the business economy. We are looking to offer many different recreational and entertainment opportunities throughout the year with improved access for people with disabilities. Additionally, we want to protect Squam Lake and the Squam River by ensuring sustainable shoreline management. The town beach is the jewel of the town, and we want it to shine. I will now turn this over to Ellen Levinson, who has so graciously volunteered her time and expertise to help this project.
Good, thanks.
So
I think today when I woke up and I looked out my window and I saw that snow, my first thought was nobody's going to show up because they're all going to go out and have fun. My dog enjoyed it. And I think that's what we all know about this town is how beautiful it is. We know it, you know, and we know how much it has to offer. And we love it, you know, and you can snowmobile, you can ice skate, you can, you know, play in the snow, you can go skiing, you have so many options, and in the summertime, of course, you do as well. And I hear this from people that, you know, we want to keep the rural character, we want to keep our cohesive identity as a community. And at the same time, it's hard for people to want to share this with people who come in from outside or people who are visitors, but the town has a real problem, and I know it's difficult to hear it. It has a huge economic problem, and this is an economic development committee. So they were given the challenge of trying to deal with the beachfront area, you know, and the degradation and the sand that was leaching and moving, and the wall there, and the way that it was going. There was a recession of the sand, and other issues, you know, like the deterioration of the beach house and all those things. But when they were given this assignment in 2024, right? Is that right? The end of 2024? When they were given that assignment, I asked them for their notes from going back, and actually it's all, just so you know, if you look at their meeting notes, it's all on the town website. I mean, it's not, none of this is hidden, but people act like it hasn't been on there, but it has been. It's just hard to keep up, you know what I mean, with all those notes and stuff that are posted after meetings. But what happened is, they looked into it and they realized, you know, this, just like, you know, Jana just said, it's a gem. And this is an economic development opportunity. And it's not just a question of the beachfront. It's a question of the whole area and what can be done in order to improve it for all people, make it more accessible for the residents of the town, and they also to attract business. And really, if you look at this town, you don't need to know that you are called a distressed area in New Hampshire. That's why this town is eligible for this grant. A quarter of the population is below the poverty line. But you don't need that statistic, do you? Because if you walk outside and you can see how many places are no longer occupied or deteriorating, you look at the waterfront, you see that as well. You know the town needs something if we're going to appeal to businesses. If you think in these terms, and this is what I want to do before I tell you why we went at this grant is good. Think about it for a minute. If you're going to do a project, what do? Do you just wake up one day and make a drawing and say, what does everybody want? No. But there have been drawings that have been done to say, you know, to show what could be there and what people would be interested in having at the beachfront. But that doesn't matter, because that's not how you do a project. So we took 10 steps back, and what happened is in August of 2025, there was a decision made to go after this grant called a Catalyst Feasibility Grant. And the reason the town went after it is because it wanted to start from step one. It allows the town to say, look at this wonderful asset we have. What kind of recreational options and year-round entertainment can we offer? And what can we do, considering the location, environmental factors, you know, feasibility from an engineering perspective. So looking at the whole picture economically, what will give us the best return on this investment? Because this is an investment. So you have to always think, when you talk about a project in economic development, you have to put money in to get money out. Everybody here, I'm speaking for myself, and maybe not you, but I would like my tax rate to go down. And if you ever want to get there, you've got to increase your base, you know, you have to have a higher income, generally speaking here, and you also have to increase, you know, the activity, economic activity to get there. So this is an economic development project. This beach, if you get this beachfront redone, let's say the whole project, we've looked at comparables, it's going to be maybe the whole project to get to the end point where it's finished and a few years out, that may be $1 million to maybe 1.4 million. You start at the beginning, and that's about 10% of your cost, okay? So that's what, next slide please. So that's where we started. We started at that point. I just want to be really clear, this application is not about any plan. I do understand, people have told me, because I wasn't here, that there was in January 26, I think, 2025. 25, right? Before the select board, there was a plan that was presented just to give people an idea of what this may look like in the end of the day, or what ideas were coming up as far as recreational activities. Well, that thing is not what was submitted, and it's not what the plan is, because there isn't one yet. We are getting money so that a plan can be developed, okay? Just be really clear about that. I just want to make sure there's no confusion there. So what is the town, what does it mean? Well, to achieve, first of all, why are we doing this you have to look at your project also. You're a town. You have a master plan, right? You have a plan for recreation. So you don't just start from, okay, what's the idea of the Economic Development Committee? No, you go back to source documents. And this is the first one, which is your master plan. In your master plan, the first goal, I just want to mention it, this is the first goal in your master plan, is to enhance the town's position as a destination for those seeking quality outdoor recreation. Can you see why the waterfront area could contribute to that? I mean, I can. I can see it in 1,000 ways. Then the second is the recreation plan, which is within the master plan. So part of that, it calls for creating additional educational and recreational opportunities at the beach. Well, that's a good idea, right? Okay, and then let's get real. The waterfront's run down, and we all know that. I don't need to tell anybody here. And then finally, in March 2025, the Board of Selectmen voted, and it would have been January 2025, voted to put an article in before the town meeting, at the warrant of the town meeting, saying that the town authorizes the Economic Development Committee to seek and apply for grants in order to develop a comprehensive plan to enhance the recreational value and overall appeal of the beach. That is what we're doing. So the plan isn't there yet, guys. I'm so sorry. I know a lot of you think there is one, and there are a lot of rumors. There are no plans for docks and this, nothing. I know a lot of people have ideas, and I know there have been pictures out there. If I can only beg you to start from the beginning, because that's how we're going to be able to work with the expert consultants who are going to be hired to do this. We're starting at the scratch, at the beginning, okay? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Could you do the next slide? So this is what the Catalyst Feasibility Grant is, okay? This is what it does. I just want to get that clear. First of all, what does it say? Obtain community input about potential activities and uses. Well, we first had to get the grant, right? So we got the grant approved, but we still have to wait to get, before we can start it. But once we can start implementing the grant, that's what we're gonna do. That's it. We aren't, I'm not, but who's gonna do that? The engineers and the consultants who know how to do the studies, they're going to obtain community input about potential activities and uses, okay? And then what? Then they're going to assess technical, legal, economic, environmental aspects. They're going to produce a report for the town so the town can use it. Identifies the recreational and entertainment activities that can be offered. Okay? So that's what feasibility implies. Are financially and environmentally sustainable and meet Ashland's needs. Not everybody's going to agree in the end of the day. Nobody ever does on anything that's done. But they're going to do their best to get to that end point, okay? Recommends the structures to support the activities. The structures meaning, the facilities, how you redesign that area, physically engineering and how you deal with the hydrology, all those issues. To support the activities, architectural and engineering designs, what you need to get there. Cost estimates and estimated financial returns. That's what you guys care about. Think about it. This thing costs, the whole thing, grant, the whole project for the feasibility side, that's $100,000. Half of that has to come from raising money from the town. The other half is the grant. Now, once you get this part done, and you have that, right? Well then, the town can use it to seek the funding to complete the waterfront development. And remember what I said before? Let's say you have about a million four is what we think, and maybe the whole thing would cost in the end of the day. This is just the first 100,000 of that amount, okay? So this is our first step. I just want to be clear about that. So compliance with, I wanted everyone to know we're going to comply with national environmental laws. It's required. The town's going to proactively engage with the Department of Environmental Services to address any runoff, sand leaching, other environmental concerns, which I think Jana made clear. Next. So this is I'm just quickly going to go through how did we, where are we in this process now, okay? Just so you know, because we haven't yet, we've been approved for a grant, but we haven't moved forward with it yet, all right? So October 6th, the Board of Selectmen approved the submission of the application for this project. And it's to the Northern Borders Regional Commission. And it was for what's called a Catalyst Feasibility Grant. And the grant amount, $50,000, and that's to develop, see what it says? A comprehensive waterfront redevelopment plan. So the plan is so that you have something in hand that you can use to go out, and then you can seek contracts, to develop it. It requires a $50,000 match, which is raised and appropriated by the town. And the town manager, Ron Beard, where are you, Ron?
He's not here.
He's not here now? Okay, is the project manager. October 8th, the town submitted the application. December 8th, the Northern Borders Regional Commission approved it. But that is just the start of the process. You have to go through getting an agreement signed and et cetera. January 12th, the Board of Selectmen approved warrant Article 22 for the March 2026 town meeting. And this is what it does, and this is important. It asks voters whether they approve the grant and raising and appropriating the funds for the $50,000 match. And we're going to talk about that later. What does that mean, raising the funds? And that's going to be discussed later, okay? The town is now seeking to raise those funds to apply toward the $50,000 match. So remember, March 10th, right, that's the town meeting, the second Tuesday in March, is this the town meeting? It's at that point when the town has to decide whether this project's going to go through or not, all right? If you vote no, it won't go through. If you're not there and you don't vote, it may not go through. So I'm encouraging people to show up. Next. So the next steps, I'm turning over to Bino. And Bino has already been introduced, but I just have to tell you, you guys are so lucky he lives here. He is on the New Hampshire Business and Economic Affairs Department staff. He is the representative who covers the whole northern part of the state and brings business. He's the one who helped to get to work with environmental services, to bring in the business side of it, to bring in the state support. He is the guy who knows, and we're just grateful that he's here and that he lives in Ashland. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be here this morning. So my name is Bino Lamonsang. I work for the good people of Grafton, Carroll, and Coos County at the Department of Business and Economic Affairs. And just a few brief words about it. So the Department of Business and Economic Affairs actually works to help businesses stay in the state. We help them expand. We help them be sustainable, and the other part of my work actually takes me to Canada quite a lot to go speak with companies up in Canada about coming to the United States, about being in the right state, New Hampshire. So as an example, our friends at Freudenberg decided to leave us. So I am literally working with companies, mostly technology companies, if you will, that want to be in the U.S. from Canada. So I've explained to them that we have a beautiful community. I'm a big fan of the park over there, and I don't see that a lot in in communities in the North Country. And so I think that's an absolute jewel that we have in this recreation park. So I taught that quite a lot when I speak with companies. The beauty of especially technology jobs is they're good paying jobs, they're clean jobs. And so I was asked by a couple of our members of the Board of Selectmen to join this committee, and it just happens that one of the first projects that we chose to work on is this waterfront redevelopment project. So last year I brought my colleague at the Department of Environmental Services. He was the Assistant Commissioner of Environmental Services. I brought him up from Concord to show him, where we are, what this looks like. In case anyone might not know, none of us, whether it's this committee, the Board of Selectmen, or whoever, can do anything of this nature, if you will, without the state's Department of Environmental Services. If they look at the project and say, no, because we're out. The project stops right there. So I wanted to be sure that the folks at Environmental Services understand, the nature of this. Like Ellen very well said, there's no particular plan as of yet. There's some ideas. And we spoke about those ideas with our friends at Environmental Services. And I brought one of my colleagues at the Department of Business and Economic Affairs, who is the state program manager for the federal grant program called Northern Border Regional Commission. And he likes the town, he likes the project. I also want to mention, I have a colleague in the audience, Stu Arnett, who drove up from Concord. Stu is with Arnett Development Group, and Stu works with towns and applicants, if you will, to look at northern border projects. And so he's here at the end if anybody has any questions on the technical side of things. He's the guy that can answer those questions. So my colleagues appreciated being told about this project. They appreciated being invited up to look at the project. And so the next steps basically, again, are what the folks before me expressed. The Northern Borders program, whether it's $1 million or in our case, $100,000 for this study, it's a matching program. So Northern Borders gives us the first half of $50,000. We have to raise the second half. I want to really, really underline that we are not just automatically leaving it up to the taxpayers. We are going to go out, get donations. There are other state, I sat on a board of directors of something called the Community Development Finance Authority. They basically hand out grants to communities, to nonprofits. So, because I was on that board for a while, I'm going to go back to my colleagues on that board and talk about, the fact that we need $50,000 as a match. No guarantees. I don't know if we will get up to the 50,000. I hope to, obviously. But if not, then the town has to guarantee that they will have the $50,000 match. So again, I just want to underline that we are going to knock ourselves out, all of us, to get the $50,000 match from other resources. Very blessed to have gone to school and actually dated this gentleman's wife, back when we were in high school, I wouldn't want to say that, he owns a New Car down the road here, the New Car Auto Group. Done very, very well. She's better off with him. I could never have given her that kind of life. But anyway, so I plan to go and see Dan Dages, who's the owner of New Car, to see if maybe he likes projects like this. So I'm going to see if he might be willing to do the whole match, $50,000. So anyway, and you know, after we get the match and everything, you know, the Board of Selectmen will approve all of this, you know, the report, if you will, so that by next fall, if the study is finished, all is well, Northern Borders has 2 rounds every year. Am I speaking out of turn there, Senator? No? Okay. So what we would do is then, you know, once there's a plan, we would then go back to Northern Borders and ask for funding for the actual project itself. But in the meantime, we're not going to worry about that part of it yet. You know, like Ellen said, we're starting at the beginning. The first step is we've received $50,000 to do a feasibility study, and we will look for the match, and then hopefully do the feasibility study and move this along. So I'd like to invite Jenny to say a few words as well about securing the match. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dino. So as Vino said, we have the grant for $100,000. The grant for $100,000, and we get $50,000 from the feds, and the town is on the hook for the other $50,000. And that is what the warrant, basically what the warrant article is saying, to accept this grant. And it says raise and appropriate $100,000. Well, you have to raise money before you can appropriate it, and that's why it says $100,000. $50,000 of that would be coming from the state as a grant, and the town is on the hook for the other $50,000. But we can do it we can raise that in services and in donations. And as Vino was talking about, he was talking about this to this one gentleman maybe fronting the whole thing. But what I do have here, and we already have our first donation. We have a $1,000 donation towards. It's not a donation. It's a what do we call it?
It's a pledge. It's a commitment.
Pledge. Yes, a pledge. It's a pledge. So for the first $1,000, and in the event that the article passes, which is what we're really hoping, then the town would be going out to the people who have pledged, asking for their money. Of course, if they pledge and then something happens and they don't have the money, they're not going to take your house, they're not going to put a lien, all this stuff. This is just like an honor system. I pledge. And on this project, just so people understand, right now we're at the design, and we're going to have more outreach and more opportunities for people to give their input of what they think they would like. So we've got this first $100,000, and then we'd be back here again next year if we are able to move forward with the plan to raise the funds for constructing the whole thing. And we're going to, again, we feel, the committee strongly feels that we'll be looking for grants, but we feel we can raise the money without hitting the taxes. That's our goal, to do it that way. As much as possible, because there are other grants available. And then other communities have done this on projects where they solicit donations, and there are people in our community, in and around the community, we feel will be willing to donate. So that is our goal. But meanwhile, if you want to pledge money, I have a sample letter here. It's very simple. If you want to take a look at it, they'll be up here. Just It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but it's whatever we can do, because we want to do, for us to move forward, we need a yes vote on Article 22. The article does have what it would hit for the tax rate. I think it's like 11 cents or something. But ultimately, we want that to be zero, and through donations. So, if anybody is interested in doing a donation, yes?
I just want to add that I wouldn't just say, if you want to pledge, but more importantly, if you know businesses or folks like this gentleman that I happen to have known for a long time, if you know people like that, banks, large businesses who might want to throw in a generous donation, then that works as well.
Yeah, so we're looking to do this project. I personally think it's a very good project for the community and for economic development. And I just want to do a little bit of a side. It's like some people are questioning why this is economic development. And I'm from Manchester, and I go back, and I don't know if any of you realize or remember when Manchester, the largest mills in the world, and they were all decrepit and empty. This was in the 70s. And there were some business people who were trying to do something with the mills, but then there was also a group who was just going in and cleaning it up and making it look nicer. And it was the whole combination of what turned them around. You've got to do both sides. So this is economic development. We are a proud town, and we want our beach to look proud, but also provide amenities that I really think the community would enjoy going back to that. So that's Peter.
I think that's our presentation. So at this point, it's your turn. I will make an appeal though before we start, and that is again.
The next one.
We do meet every Monday, the first and third Wednesday, of every month. And if you have ideas for us, come to the meetings. We want to hear from you, okay? So help us out. We don't have all the answers. We'd love your input. All right, so with that, raise your hands.
I have two questions, concerns on Kate Dwyer. One of them is the impact on traffic on River Street and over the covered bridge and up Levitt Hill. If this becomes a reality and becomes a very popular thing, just, I live right off of Route 3, and cars come speeding off the road, and I fear for my grandchildren every time they're here. So that's one of my concerns. And just the amount of traffic in the summer on River Street anyways, and the speed with which cars and trucks, big trucks go bombing down River Street. So that's one. And then the other would be, if this becomes a reality, would there be any kind of a preference for Ashland residents to be, I know right now anybody can come to the beach, which is great, but if the beach was designated for Ashland, and it would be really nice to know that Ashland residents would always have availability for the beach. Those are the two things I was thinking about.
okay.
Let's take it.
I think we appreciate those comments, and I
Yeah.
think some of us have those concerns.
Thank you.
And those would be concerns that we will be addressing.
Great.
I
Thank
agree
you.
with you,
Thanks.
the traffic going too fast. And also on Route 3 where you try to turn in.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of accidents.
Another question, I'm Steve Hodge, I live right next to the covered bridge. Is the goal to get more Ashland residents to come to the beach, or outside Ashland people visiting?
Well, I think the beach, the beach needs to have some rehab anyways. We need a bathhouse and stuff. That's end of life. I personally, and not everybody agrees, but I personally feel strongly that especially Ashland residents should be able to launch kayaks and canoes if they want to do that at the beach. But right now they can't. So for me, that's something that I personally think is important. It's not a large beach. I think the focus would be for Ashland residents, but I don't want to turn away, people passing through. I mean, we have had instances where people go hiking and then they just want to cool off and go swimming someplace, and I think it reflects well on the time, and they may stop and go swimming and then go eat in one of our restaurants, and that's all part of the economic development. Do we want to be like Hampton Beach? No, but I don't think we're going to get there, and so it's just kind of a balance. But my economic development is important, but also Ashland residents, their access and their amenities.
And something we have to be aware of, it is a public beach. We can't turn people away.
Yeah, I will also add to that, in talking with DES, getting their approval is really dependent on a regional resource. They're looking at, what we're going to do there, and the money we're investing in is also the people who are hopefully going to help us finance this. They're looking at it as a regional asset. Now, that said, doesn't mean that Ashland can't have a benefit. For example, there may be a beach pass, and I don't know, we have to discuss this, but Ashland residents may get a preference in terms of lower rate for a beach pass, et cetera, and people outside would be contributing more money for the use of the beach. We don't know exactly how that works, but it is important in raising the money and in getting the design approved that we regionalize this, and it can't be Ashland only.
Charlie, for one second, Charlie,
Yeah.
just to follow up on that, I remember I was pointing to the slide and saying how the first step, once this grant gets going and the monies are there, is they're gonna consult. And I'm sorry, I hate not seeing people. They're going to ask you, the town, for your input and what the needs are. So when that happens, it's really important to talk about this issue that, we are residents here, and there are ways that you could have times of the day or certain, there are methods. We are not gonna sit here and suggest them because we don't know all that, but that's one of the issues. It's a very important one. This is a community, and this is economic, yes, and it's financial and all that, but it is a community, and it is something that people value, and we're trying to enhance the outdoor activities for everyone and increase them and what's available. But at the same time, you need to be able to, you should express this, and it will be something that will be integrated in. There are ways to integrate these things in, the balance. So just want to make sure you know that. And also we have these wonderful activities that take place there, recreational activities for the kids. And those are definitely one thing we want to make sure are not only sustained, but more options. And, I know there's always been discussion about a covered area where people can go if it's raining or for entertainment or educational. Well, you have that in your master plan. So we're not trying to do anything that would undermine all of these concerns, but rather to achieve them in a way that benefits, not just the residents today, but the whole economy and the growth and future of this town. Just wanted to say that.
So I see the two questions here. Just give me 1 second. Stu, I'm going to call on you. Do you want to say anything about the requirements of the application process itself with regards to economic development? It's sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's good.
Hi, Stu Arnett, and I'm not from the government here to help you.
Wow!
I used to be.
I know you used
I
to.
had the great pleasure of working with Benoit. Stu Arnett, my wife and I run a company out of Concord. We're on a contract to BEA to help organizations apply for funding. And it's been very successful. A couple of things. One, I know you don't pay anybody up here, but go ahead and double their salary anyway, because they worked really hard on this and they did a great job. A couple things here. Economic development was brought up. Northern Borders Regional Commission is one of 6 regional commissions in the country. Appalachia was the original one. So economic development is a very broad category in their language. So it includes things like child care, mental health counseling. Last round, Spear Hospital got a grant. Cottage Hospital got a grant. So don't think of it as just a very narrow thing. It's a pretty broad area. And one of the reasons that it says that as much as it does in the application is because I kept beating up on Alan saying, you got to put it in there because that's what the program's looking for. I think from here is, let's see, you'll be asked to enter into a contract. And I think probably some of the angst is, does the town have to come up with $50,000 in cash right away? And the answer is it has to show it's going to come up, pledge the match. The match can be raised over a period of time. It doesn't have to be bonded the
18
next
months.
day. In fact, the grant thing can be as much as 3 years if you really want to. And in addition to cash, little cash, as you were saying earlier, you can use what's called soft match. And so a soft match is volunteer time. If, say you have a public hearing, once you get the process, you can start saying how much volunteer time is being put in there. There's a grid that says how much everybody's is per hour. I think the reason your warrant is saying the way it says, it's if nothing else happens. Nobody puts a buck in, nobody volunteers, nobody, then the town says it will. But it really ought to be looked at as a real stopgap, and I mean, this meeting alone would probably generate $3,000 or $4,000 worth of match if it was after your notice to proceed. That's what I'm talking about. It's just that kind of a thing.
And we are after notice to proceed, right? Aren't we? So we can accept the
And now
match
you
with the
can't-
pledges.
No, you can say the pledges, you can get commitments,
Yeah,
and
no,
that's what the
no.
commitment letters is.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
you can't use this as match until you get your notice to proceed. We're in the grass here, but they're deep grass. But as soon as you get this little electronic letter that says green light, then all your time, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Remember, it's also, so it's up to 50 for the town if nothing else happens. And to remember, the 50 is up to 50. So if you put the RFP out and says, we want these services, and you say, one of the things you want to do is judge by price.
Could you say what an RFP is, please?
I'm sorry, request for
Yeah,
proposals.
don't remember, not every, yeah, okay. Thanks.
Okay, so you will write, the town will write what they're asking for this money. And it has to fit the categories of the grant. You can't say, you know, we wanted to pave a street or something. We'll try. But the proposal will say, I want to make sure we have a lot of public hearings that take into account traffic. We want to make sure that we have people who look at the issue of how do residents maintain access. You know, all those, that would be in your request, because $50,000 plus that's a nice contract. So you're going to have some people who want to get that contract and who are going to be very happy to listen to you and design a product. By the way, we can't. We wouldn't, and we can't because we're under contract. So we couldn't participate in that. So you might even find the proposal to come in under that, and then you can spend some of that on some of your administrative costs, whatever at this time is on. So the nice thing about a feasibility grant is it's really clean as far as a contract. It's, did you up for a competitive bidding process? Yes. Did you pick somebody based on that process? Yes. Did they do the report and all the process within the 18 months, whatever they, yep. When it goes close out, it's gone. Your obligation is gone. It clearly gives you a step up if you decide you want to come back for implementation. One of the questions might be, why don't we just wait, or something like that. One, we don't, if you never know what's going to happen in federal programs. So, and then two, the sooner you get this done, the more you have the possibility of coming back for implementation.
For your additional grant.
And then the kind of kicker here as far as strategy is the 50-50 changes every year. It doesn't, it's determined every year, I'd say. So there is a possibility that Ashland could end up being not 50-50, but 80-20. Go ahead.
Meaning the 20 is the
I'm right
match?
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the match. So there's a possibility that the implementation could be 80% federal and 20% local. Again, the local can be soft edge. So it's not a bad idea at all to get this in the pipeline, and then gives you a little chance to kind of shop when that ratio may change. And I wish I knew, but I think as of yesterday, like next week, that 2026 listing is coming out, who's eligible. You're definitely eligible again, but I think the hope would be get this done in 26 and either go for the fall round of 26 or more likely a year from now, the spring of 27 for implementation. If and if and if and if and if. If you get a plan you like, if the community likes it, then you're kind of lined up. Did I hit most of the questions? Okay.
All right, go ahead here, then I'll get you.
So the town beach right now, is the town charges people or no? Town residents, do they charge for usage of the beach?
Is it $35 a family?
Well, you can, or at one time, you can do that too. It's
It's not
nominal,
everybody.
and it's a lower charge for town residents and higher for.
It's $25 for a season pass for residents and $50 for non-residents, $2 a day for residents and $5 non-residents. And seniors are free. And seniors are free. Residents.
And children under the age of
12.
her that's
16, under
So
16.
it seems to me that that kind of thing would help with giving Ashland residents priority, as well as you've got a certain limitation to the parking. I'm on Levitt Hill Road, by the way, so I'm going up past it every day. As far as like how much parking you have is going to limit how much beaches there is, which we have right now anyway. So I think that when you take those things into consideration with the plan, we figure out, okay, what is the capacity with the beach, and the parking can't exceed that. And I think that those things have to tie in together.
Agreed.
Yeah, Linda Barnes, Thompson Street. Now, I think what people have been saying about prioritizing town resident access is really important. It is a town beach. And so I think, I agree with, I understand the regional dimension. So I think there's sort of a both and, the fees set so it's less expensive for town residents. In the town where I grew up, beach access meant that for that fee, you got a little sort of elasticized, waterproof tag, band with a little tag, and you just wore it to the beach when you went, and that meant that you were a member, you lived in the town. Something like that that's easy to see might be a way of delineating, and then for people who either get a day pass or have out of town, they're not town residents, it's more expensive, and there's something else. But I think that it's really important to give town residents the message that this is to make it even more the beach for town residents and to support what's already happening there, work that Ann has done for years, and to expand on that in ways that just enrich it while keeping it a town beach.
Well, it's interesting, I have next month I will have my first grandchild, my first grandson. And I was thinking about the beach, and when he's a toddler,
It's terrible.
I'm not sure I would want to take him to the beach, right?
The wall There has are to go. parents that are concerned about children falling off the wall.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common.
Sorry.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. We do hear that.
My name is Brian Spear, I live on Swan Point, I'm right across from the beach, been there 42 years. And my question is, you shared some ideas with DES, can you share those with the group? What you're thinking about, what you shared with DES on what you foresee for that beach?
DES, the folks at DES, anytime there's a project, anytime there's an issue that's going to happen, they don't want to be the last to know. That infuriates them beyond belief. I was just up with them, there's a project up in, as an example, there's a project up in Gorham. The paper mill up there is going to do away with their sludge processing deal, so I encourage the owner of the paper mill to bring them in now. Don't wait till you make all your plans and then after your plans are done, you say, oh, and by the way, DES, we want to do this. So my reasoning for bringing the a deputy commissioner was to basically show him, have a look, you know, I'm not an engineer, so I know nothing about that stuff, but I know that one of their concerns before he came here was the silt going down the river, which is happening now and stuff. So he spoke about that and
What did he say about
I'm sorry?
Can you elaborate what he said about that, about the silt? How does
Well,
it
that was
gonna stop that?
that was 2 years ago. I barely remember what I did last week.
Let me help you with that.
But, you know, he was basically thankful for the fact that we brought him here, we shared this with him. As the feasibility study happens, I assured him that he probably would be the first to see the results of the feasibility study, to any plan that comes out of the feasibility study. Again, I told him, you guys will be the first to know, you know, they're like tied at the hips, if you will, with EPA. So the EPA,
Environmental Protection Agency, the federal.
I'm sorry.
Federal,
yeah.
you mean?
Yeah, this is the Federal
Yeah, federal, you
Environmental
mean, yeah.
Protection Agency. They're tied at the hip with them. So the guy who runs New England is out of Boston. And so, you know, he will be looking at this as well, so.
My next question is, I don't really see it.
Can I just stop you a little? I'll let you get to your question, but just try
I want to expand on it a little bit for you, because you asked a very important question. And I was on that call with Dino, and maybe I remember some of the details. But it was very clear that their approval of any design or activity regarding the redevelopment of that waterfront meant that we had to solve what they considered to be the issues of erosion and the sand going down the river. That was their prerequisite requirement. And yes, they were delighted that we called them up front and you know, before anything was done. And I think we got their attention, and they were very interested in us coming up with that solution, because they understood that solving that problem is what opens that area up. And so, you know, I think, you know, the guys have presented this in a way that says, when we do this feasibility, that's where it starts. That waterfront has to be engineered in a way that preserves it and deals with some of the problems that have occurred in the past. You know, I think it's the wall was an attempt to solve that problem. It didn't do it completely. It contributed, but we're still seeing the sand coming, you know, down the river. And so I think the emphasis has to be on, we need a better solution, and we're gonna have engineers look at that.
Can I answer that? Can I? And just what I'd like to add is, you know, the concept of, do we have a plan? And we haven't developed one. The first thing we have to do is get from them what we're allowed to do. And after we get that, then all of the other things that we think we want to do, the bathhouse to this or whatever, it's contingent on us first getting approval of what we can do with the waterfront to solve the leaching problem, you know, because people would like the beach to go back to where it was before. We don't know if we can do that. We have to find out what we can do, then we can continue.
Understood. I've been here for 40-something years. I understand that some sand goes in the river. It can be dredged. It's not that big a deal. We don't have to spend a ton of money building huge jetties out into the middle of the lake to accomplish that. My second question is that I don't actually see a ton of business coming this way. Is there a development in the area that plans on building more that you need a bigger beach for?
Thompson Street.
What's that?
There's a development going up on Thompson Street,
Yeah, okay.
and they could walk to the beach.
All right, is there another development going on anywhere, that we're gonna be increasing units anywhere, or we need this beach to be vital to us?
We are looking at, you know, we are hopeful over time with the Economic Development Committee to be able to reclaim the mill area, all of these areas, the ultimate goal. So would that increase usage? We don't know, but I mean, I think most people in this room would agree, we have kind of a SOAR in the middle of town, but that's a different project. But this could potentially,
If you were
If I
to
could
come
ju-
to the planning board meetings,
I don't
you
know.
could hear,
not
I'm
a
sorry?
resident. I'm a seasonal resident.
So tell them about,
Okay.
you can tell them
And
about what
Punch
projects
has made a big investment in
Well,
our
you
properties
can
over
go
the years.
online and watch the
Okay,
video.
wait.
Could I speak? You can go online and watch video or look at the minutes. There are projects,
Yeah.
And I
coming
know in
up.
the future. I know in the future.
they're
Well,
coming up
and
very
we do-
soon, actually.
Yeah, we do have the Owl's Nest.
Yeah, very specifically, we have a developer who is very interested
I
in
appreciate it.
having the waterfront development complement their investment.
yes.
Yeah.
If I can just finish up, the area's a quaint area, we've got a beautiful covered bridge there. We don't want to see it overdeveloped. I shouldn't say, I should say, I don't want to see it overdeveloped.
That's not
Nobody
the goal.
does.
Okay,
Nobody does.
thank you.
One at a time.
Pollyanna Fisher from the Squam Lakes Association. I just wanted to say that we have our Squam Watershed Management Plan, and we have identified 53 sites around the lake that have some nutrient input loading. That means there's erosion, things that could be fixed to make our water quality better on the lake. Ashland Town Beach is site number 41, and we're slowly working with the communities and with those areas to enhance and reduce the nutrient loading. And so I just wanted to say that we would be happy if and when this moves forward, we would be happy to collaborate and offer suggestions to make it more lake-friendly, reduce nutrient input. So yeah, DES is important, and we work with DES all the time, and we're here to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Mayo, River Street. My mother's a senior citizen and lived in the town for a very, very long time, and I grew up here. And she's very concerned about the accessibility as a senior citizen traversing River Street, even just in the current state. And so she was hoping that this might put something in place that could improve the traffic flow down River Street, because there's cars that stick out that park on River Street to access, and they're on both sides of the street, and people are walking in, and she's afraid of hitting them. And she's wondering, oh, if we're adding more people and not worrying about that, how is she going to get down to get to the beach? Those kinds of things. I think it's just the accessibility. If we do have the covered bridge that could be the main access area, I guess. But Google sends a lot of people down River Street.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good concern. Thank you.
So we're not actually talking about expanding the beach, we're talking about
can't.
enhancing
Right.
That's right.
and repairing the building.
The existing,
And-
yeah.
Right,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
And it includes the parking area, so you see, it's that is all town property.
Yes.
Okay, so, it's very interesting, Lori, what you were just saying, because, that is part of what they have to look at. They have to look at the traffic flow and maybe how that may be adjusted or what's needed, and actually, it's really good, so, that, obviously, we're writing this down, but when the time comes, that's gonna be a critical issue they have to look at. That is a primary one. So there is flex there because the town owns that parking area, and they own part in that land around it, and there are ways to work with it, and I think that's a real key issue.
Well, I guess what I was saying is this study could assess that of a current issue that exists today that could potentially be resolved by
Exactly.
this exploration.
Yeah, so this will be
Is what
part
I was
of it.
trying to get at.
Yeah. And also accessibility for people who, maybe can't see well or other things, and, for getting to the beach, getting down to it, maybe if they want to fish, or, whatever, to give more accessibility to more people in the residents are a key part of that, obviously.
Right. So it was a comment that was meant to be positive about
Yeah,
exploring
no.
this, not as a detractor.
Oh, no, I know that,
Thank you.
but it's a good point.
Jenny, go ahead.
I would like to, you're talking about traffic on River Street. There is the boat launch on River Street, and I do see cars parked up, and River Street's a very narrow street, and the cars parked. Is that some of your concern also, where people
You know, as
launch.
you come around the bend as you're going to
Right, and their
approach the
cars
marina
parked,
area,
because right now
it's
this is.
like you can hardly get through with one car.
Right, as far as
It's
launching,
fast.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
you know,
good
that's,
that they mentioned
that's something that would be on this whole
Yeah.
Right.
bigger,
Yeah.
trying to make things work better.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just a couple of comments. This meeting, congratulations to the board here, much more informative than it was at the selection board meeting about a week ago. But there's one question that I had that I don't think's been answered. Land was given to the town by Mr. Doggett back in the 60s, 50s, I'm not exactly sure where. And there are restrictions on it as to what it can be used for. And I'd like to know what they are. I have not been able to get a copy of the deed, but I think that's something that needs to be looked into. So before we go overboard and say, hey, we're gonna put a building on it or something, we need to know what is allowed.
The deed has, it had to be turned into a public access beach within 4 years. And there's nothing on that afterwards, in which the town did, so they complied with that. And the other thing they have on it is they want town residents who are under 16 to be able to go to the beach for free. There are no other restrictions on the deed, but you do have the page, and you can go look at, because I gave you everything that I have.
Right.
And, but we aren't thinking, even considering, or nothing has come up that would change anything that would not comply with that anyways. I know at a previous meeting, somebody asked me if we were gonna honor the donation, the Doggett donation, and yes, we have no plans to do anything that would not honor that. We're just looking to enhance, improve its maintenance, it's an asset.
Go ahead. Yep.
I'm Kathy Henning, full-time resident of Ashland. And as a grandmother of some young grandchildren, and also looking at the town of Ashland, and I think one thing we want to do is try to attract young families. So kind of to answer your question, you just made a statement about your grandchild, that you wouldn't have your grandchild at the Ashland Beach. As a former WSI waterfront instructor and day camp supervisor, I'm wondering, the grant, does it also specify, you said it specifies that it has to address the erosion. Does it require certain safety concerns? Because I'm always looking around and worrying about, is the raft, is it safe? Can kids get stuck under the raft? Are the docks safe? Is there a braided thing, that separates the deep water from the shallow water? Is there a separate, if we're going to do boats, that it should be separate? Anyway, safety is just something that I think about. So I'm just wondering, does the grant specify that it has to meet certain safety standards?
Hi, Kathy. Well, it's in, I think actually Stu answered that question, but this is a federal grant, and so the town has to comply with federal as well as state standards. And so, yes, you don't have to actually write in there, we want to make sure, but we did point out the concerns about safety is one of the reasons why this, people were looking at this. But as part of that, yes, you have to look at safety, you have to look at, who's going to be using it, the age groups, all of those things, yeah, all of that. And I think that's what's good about a federal grant, quite frankly, because if you just go and do a feasibility study, the town gives money and does it, you know what I mean? It does it its way. If you get a federal grant, and they do have to comply, they would have to comply, even with that, you would have to comply with, obviously, the Department of Environmental Services and all that. But this is got very strict standards on contracting, what you have to look at, transparency. So yes, and this is what, this is the best discussion. I mean, I'm just so grateful for all of you showing up, because you are bringing up the bottom line issues that we need to have the contractors, the consultants who come in to do this, to address. So yes, absolutely, and just remember, you have a say.
You know what I mean? You can raise that as your concerns, and I liked what you asked, about environmental, because you can't go forward with this grant until they're going to assess this environmental needs here first. So in other words, what happens is under the grant, we have to first complete a form that we agree as a town to meet environmental standards, so I'm just saying, it's a very tight, and I think in a good way, you know what I mean, that side of the grant. So yes, and all of this has to be addressed, and the more you say it, and the more you make that issue clear, that that's of a concern to people here, that will be addressed too.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I can't volunteer you to work with them, but I do think that somebody who has experience in water safety and so on, that kind of eye looking things over to troubleshoot and make sure, because meeting federal standards, absolutely, but we may want to consider what is even safer best practice that federal standards may or may not include, but that to do very best practice for safety, we want to build into it. So I think that's where having the town input, and especially input from people who have the relevant experience, is really important.
So, Paula Finnegan, Depot Street, and also the campground, which is right next to the beach, and we have a boat that is in that little channel. So, a lot of concern about the sand runoff. You can't just dredge; it's not permissible. There's a lot of state requirements and things like that, which is one of the reasons they built that jetty. That they clearly didn't anticipate the water levels that we have now. My question is, if in fact this does not come to fruition, if the town does not agree to move forward in this direction, there's a lot of things that need to be done anyways. So what happens? Who absorbs the cost of that house on the building, the bathhouses? Those are significant concerns.
Yes.
Who pays for those repairs?
Exactly.
The kids camp, when the kids come in when you go to the beach, I feel those kids should be in more of a better area. The camp kids should have a better area. That could present a safety concern. Would the town be responsible for that? With the environmental impact, I know they cleared away some of the trees down by underneath the covered bridge to try to thwart some of the runoff or to do whatever to help protect things. But that wasn't the EPA that did that. So does the EPA, now that they have assent and we have discussed this, do they now say, hey, wait a minute, or even Squam Lakes Association, which is a fabulous asset to have, they have recognized it as an issue. Does that then come up on the radar? If we don't address this in another way, who does and who pays for it?
What we're seeing, Paul, is that unfortunately this is an issue that's been known for a while, and very little, if anything, has been done for the last decade or so. So part of it, I think Ellen brought up about the master plan and the reference to this development. Well, if you look at the date on that master plan, it was a long time ago, like 2012, 2013. So the issue that I think this committee is very interested in is we all know that this is something we need to be involved in. It's an asset that needs some attention. It doesn't need any further neglect because it's had more than its share. And that's really the initiative here. It's a difficult process, it's gonna be a long-term process. We've got to come up with the money. But if we do it step by step, as this committee has initiated this process, we're going to make a significant improvement, and it's time to move it forward. That's the whole feeling here.
Peter?
Go ahead.
Rick Carlson, on Levitt Hill Road, seasonal resident also. The only thing that my wife and I are hoping for, and what reason why we're here, or one of the reasons, is following up on what Paula said. If it doesn't go through, the warrant doesn't go through, all we want is to be able to roll our kayaks down on rollers and launch from the town beach, which we've been blocked and prevented from doing the last several years. Not to paddle around a swimming area, just to get out of the beach into the lake. And that's all we really like to have. Zero cost, I believe, for that. So that'd be nice if that could be changed. Thank you.
Can I say something about that?
Ann Barney, I'm the Park and Rec Director. And the reason we cannot let kayaks go from the swim area is because my lifeguards are certified through the American Red Cross. And what they tell us is if our lifeguards see somebody in distress and they launched from our beach, we are responsible. They are responsible for them. If they're out in the middle of the lake, kind of makes it rough. And the lines for the beach area go where the sand is. So
But they didn't used to, they used to end. And then
they
that
go where
was
the
line.
sand is, and they're over on the sandy part is the only place now that the younger kids can go with their parents and walk into the beach gradually. That's why I didn't want, majorly I don't want my lifeguards to have to worry about people out in the middle of the lake, but also I don't want kayaks going through where the younger kids are able to go in and out of the water gradually. There's no place, the other places along the beach are the trees and the rocks.
That's something that can be considered.
It can be remedied. So that's what you're asking, Rick? Is that,
Yes.
am I getting, yeah, he's just saying that as part of this, he recognizes today it's not possible.
All we need is a pathway like
Well,
this.
it's not just, nothing is a just, because as I just think, I hope people grasp, and, is that you can't just do little add-ons. If you do little this and a little that, you just can't do that. You have to think the whole process through. The whole area needs that revitalization. So, and this is just one of the many issues, that's what I'm saying, but definitely that's the idea, is to make sure that multiple outdoor recreational activities, kayaking, canoeing, waterboard, have access, right? So yes, absolutely, that is part of the plan is not, the plan of what they have to come up with. Yeah, these guys, when we get them hired and they do it. That's definitely.
Yeah, just add on, they'll have to wait 1, 2, or 3 years or something.
Well, that's an issue that we can't address. We're the Economic Development Committee and we're talking about this grant. I mean, maybe there's a temporary fix until something happens, but we can't address that, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's just not.
So, Ann mentioned about the kids, the little kids being able to get in that way. Absolutely, that's the only place I can take my grandkids, is that lower part. But before, the roping ended at that portion and allowed for emergency vehicle access was primarily for the fire department to be able to watch if they needed. And also that's where people used to bring their kayaks and stuff. So if the roping goes and ended, if in fact we got rid of the wall, praise God, if the roping ended there, I don't think the lifeguards would be responsible if you cull out the area.
If they are in eye range of someone in distress, they are legally obligated to help.
Oh.
Well, that would,
Because that is the beach, whether we rope it off or not, it's still the beach.
Is it safe to assume that there's no more parking available than what we see there?
There's plenty of people would park like normal people.
But there's no other land anywhere that you can grab and make parking it pretty much fixed the way they are.
I don't know how to answer
Yeah, I
that.
just wanted to come back to a point I think I heard you all making earlier. My understanding when we talk about an economic development committee is that part of what development means is coming up with ideas and proposing those to the town, but the other meaning of development is fundraising. And my understanding from what you were saying earlier is that in order not to do everything that you can, that you're proposing to do everything you can to set up fundraising mechanisms from outside sources to reduce as much as possible what taxpayers would have to agree to come up with. Did I understand it correctly?
I just want to mention that because in our Wednesday meetings, we regularly talk about where can we get the money, right? That is, Jenny is spearheading our efforts on the mill building, right, which is an eyesore to the town, right? Well,
I just mentioned that because I know sometimes people
Yeah, no,
are rightly
no, I got it,
concerned
I got
about
it.
tax burden,
But-
so I
but-
think I wanted to highlight
but
that.
I guess my
you
point
guys are
is,
thinking of ways to address that.
the mill building needs work. Well, we don't want to come to you and say, hey, we're going to raise your taxes a buck, right? This one, right? The trash project that we talked about was reducing the cost of our trash because something has to be done about our trash, right? So, almost without exception, the things that we talked about in those meetings have a parallel conversation that says, where do we get the money for this? Because we know the well is dry.
Yeah.
But we will take anybody's donation towards. No pride here, you know?
A clarifying question about what we're looking at up there. That's just the specifics of the waterfront, but the town actually owns more land than that, right? In that, or is that?
Well, there's the campground, which
There's
is,
the campground.
But do they own that green swath of?
Yes, the green
trees?
swath, yeah, that's also the right-of-way there, you mean? Yes. And that is part of the discussion that would be part of it. But this is the part that we call as the waterfront,
Right,
area.
okay.
But absolutely, and then there's the road.
Right.
So,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
so yes, so you have, if that's what I think what she's pointing to, Lori, if I'm correct?
Yes.
Yeah, is it this, you mean? Like,
Yes,
yeah.
that all
So,
of
yeah,
that free
yeah.
and up
So
and
some,
around.
there's somewhere where it isn't theirs, but I remember going and walking this with public, with Greg, and he was pointing, he had mentioned that this is town.
Yes.
Yeah, part of that's town.
Go ahead.
Pete Grandboy, Hill.
Everybody's, it's just one neighborhood came here today.
But it was
How does Big Scrum play into this, and will they be part of the feasibility, and will they donate, contribute to this project?
we haven't really had close discussions with SLA, but other than we've talked about, can we have sailing lessons? And I've heard that they would much rather do sailing lessons on our lake, on the little lake, than the big lake, because the big lake gets so windy and stuff. So as we're making the, I'd like to have list, and I have a very long list of things that I think people might, but this is just my thoughts. Bringing them in when we're designing, what we could do on this. Yes, your water quality, no matter what, but then some of their programs that they have.
Education.
That might be, to add, sailing for young people on the lake. Personally, I think it would be kind of a cool thing to do. I don't know if we can, but it will be in the discussions, and.
I was thinking more monetarily.
She's thinking of money.
Oh, money. Money. I mean, it's like, I've also heard that there are people over there with money who might be willing to donate money to us.
Yeah.
But, this is, yes.
They have their own private future.
All right, anything else? Go ahead.
Lee Davis, Climate Street, lifetime resident. I'd like to remind everybody that this whole erosion study, don't just take what you've been told was the results of that. I implore you to go back and look at the results, the actual results, and see why the decisions were made for the retaining wall. That was not the only reason. There was hydraulic studies, there was dye studies. I was part of that, helped the DES to do those. There was 3 factors in the erosion study, and the beach was not the only one. But a lot of people just focus on the beach being the problem. The town chose, if you go back and look at the minutes, it should reflect that the town chose to do they took the cheaper way out rather than dredging
or remodeling the hydraulics. They just basically went in and put in a short retaining wall, which has not been maintained since it was installed. The retaining wall used to go out there, I believe it was 60 some odd feet, and was about 2.5 feet in the air. Now it's barely visible, and there's probably 15 feet of it actually exposed. So the so-called answer to the problem was never maintained, and if you think that was the problem, then we'd let it fail again. But it wasn't. So I would think that before you put all your eggs in one basket, that probably another hydraulic study should be done to reassess
That's on the list.
in modern times what is going on there, because it really did nothing. It really did nothing. You look at the time span between when the retaining wall was put to today, and see how long that took to fill in over there. Owl Brook was a large contributor to this. People putting in new beaches along the upper part of Storm River were a contributor to this. So don't just take it at face value and say the beach was the problem and they put a retaining wall in and fix it, because it wasn't and it didn't.
Can I just make a comment on that? So remember I said the cost of the project, we don't know yet, you know what I mean, with the full project? The feasibility study is $100,000, and I will tell you, what you're talking about and all these other things that need to be looked at, that's why people can think, oh, we're just changing the beach. No, what you're talking about costs money. That's why we're having this done properly, and I appreciate your comments.
And that's why it was put in, because it was a lesser cost of all of them.
Yeah, and you have to really, if you want a sustainable, waterfront and beach, or, that whole area, if you want this to work, not for 5 years, 10 years, but really last and be sustainable, you've got to do it right. And that's the goal of this is why we're trying to get all those studies done right, and the plan based on those studies to have the best outcome. Now, the town may say, oh no, we don't want to spend 1.5, we only want to spend 1, and then you're right. That's going to be a decision later on, because feasibility study will show your choices, like you're talking about, right? And then if you choose one that isn't going to really solve all the problems, or is a temporary Band-Aid, then that's what would happen. Hopefully, but you're going to get a report that's going to give you those options, because that's what they do. They look at the cost, they look at the return over time. So if you do the total project in the end of the day and get it done right, they're going to be saying, okay, well, this is how much money you'll be able to pull in, because it's sustainable, you won't have to have as much maintenance, it's because you're going to have more, also the economic development side. I really thank you very much for that comment. I think it's very telling. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing. What's really important is we need a yes on warrant Article 22 if we're going to move forward. And if you have any questions, or if anybody you talk to, they have questions, if they want to send something to the Economic Development Committee, we're more than willing to answer questions, but we need a yes on warrant Article 22 on the beach, on this project, if we're going to be able to go forward.
And the first and third Wednesday of every month, the committee will be meeting. Follow-up questions, you have ideas, please, come out and talk to us, because that's what this is about.
And
when and where do you meet?
At the utility building, 5:30 Wednesday, first and third Wednesday. Go ahead.
If I could say one more thing. If this meeting was held in July, when most of the people on the lake were here, they'd be standing room only. So I think we should think about that going forward, because many of the neighbors to the beach are seasonal residents.
So it fell in line with the project timeline. This had nothing to do with including or excluding anybody.
We'll be here in July.
So
Well, the
it will be.
seasonal residents could be there for the inputs.
Yeah.
Right, they could, it has them for money.
We'll be here in July,
and asking for money.
God willing.
I just want to make a comment about how the town beach became the town beach, and it was donated by a business owner in the town who was more affluent than the majority of people in the town. And so I'm just thinking that, you guys are talking about the economic development, And the town of Ashland at that time, like even this building we're sitting in, was donated by an affluent business in the town at the time. And what Ashland does not have is any affluent businesses. So I'm just saying, that's why everybody's wanting to argue over how much money we're gonna spend on things. We don't have the money because we don't have people donating.
Right.
And you're talking about how do we build that up for the town. And I just think that that's really important for people to understand.
So not that I want to dismiss your points, but I want to, before everybody starts to leave, just want to thank everybody for coming. This was really productive. It's been one of the better meetings that I've been a part of since I've been involved. Appreciate your help. If you're so inclined, please vote for the warrant article. We'll move forward. And we're going to try our hardest to do this without any tax burden to you. We'll do everything we can to do this without any tax burden to you.
Thank you for all your efforts and all your
Thank you.